So welcome back to spring 3.0 here in Wisconsin. That's what it feels like. It feels like we've been through spring a few times now, and then the next day we're back to winter, and then we wait a week and we're back to spring, and then we're back to winter. And now we're warmed up, things are melting, and you guessed it, this weekend, back to zero. So I'm just taking some wood up to refill the roadside stand, and I got thinking about, now that winter is, I guess, almost over, the one thing that I had done a video on a while back was potentially reviewing different work gloves to use during the winter with firewood. So today I thought I would just go over briefly my findings on what I found with the limited gloves that I was able to test, and that's the big key factor. There was some I guess supply chain issues that I ran into that I was not expecting there to be. So we'll talk about that. I'll show you the two pairs of gloves that I went with and just kind of what I found out, which one I liked best, which one ended up working better. We'll cover all that as soon as I get this roadside stand filled up. But don't worry, I won't make you wait until I'm completely done with this. We'll just cut to the findings right now. So as I mentioned earlier, I had the intention of comparing 3, 4, maybe 5 different pair of gloves throughout the winter to see how they would handle working with firewood, working outside in the cold. But I was only able to end up comparing 2 different sets of gloves. So what ended up happening was I went to a couple different retailers here in the area because I figured I could just walk in. There's 2 big stores here in town that have generally a large supply of gloves. The first place I went to, which I thought would be the best for selection, as I walked in and went down the aisle, I knew where the glove section was. So as I was walking down towards that area of the store, I turned the corner, and there before me was pretty much an empty shelf. There was hardly anything left. Everything had just been ransacked, and the pegs were empty. Upon further investigation of the limited options I had available, what I found was there was not my size. Nothing was my size. I need an extra large size glove. And all that was available was large, large, and large. The other thing was the selection of some of the, like, I knew I wanted something a little more heavy duty. I knew it didn't pay to try some of the, thinner, less quality brands. I knew that would just be a waste of time because they wouldn't hold up very well. So I had looked online before I went to visit these retailers, and the same thing online. There was a few options available, but again, not my size. The options that I did want didn't have my size. A couple other options they didn't have stock of. So I went to another store. At this store, they did have a large supply. However, they only had one brand. And of that brand, they only had really 2 options that were what I thought would be sufficient for winter and firewood. So the brand I ended up going with was Wells Lamont. And I purchased 2 different models or makes of their gloves. Both of them were leather. The only big factor between the 2 is that this one cost $12 and this one cost $24. So, Captain Obvious here, yes, I'll give you the results right now. The pair that cost twice as much was twice as good. Surprise, surprise. But yeah, that was pretty much the extent of my testing and options. I had 2 choices, Wells Lamont, or I had 1 choice, Wells Lamont for the brand, and I had 2 choices that I narrowed it down to. Both of these are heavy. One's full leather. The other one is partial leather, and then I'll show you up close here in a bit. But for the most part, they both performed very well. However, the pair that was twice as much, in my opinion, performed twice as well. So there is the $12 pair, Wells Lamont. Like I said, they're leather. They have a cuff. They're insulated. 3M Thinsulate insulation in there. So they were warm. They performed well. However, when they got wet, and then I'd have to dry them overnight, they did get a little hard, and they weren't very flexible when I put them on the next day. And they did shrink a little bit. So that was another thing. They kind of shrunk, and they don't fit as well as they used to. The other pair, once again, 3M Thinsulate, full leather. Yeah, you can see right there. That's the one thing, is that these gloves I did end up using the most. And so this one is developing a little wear in the finger, which is common with any glove you use on firewood. These gloves were very warm. I never had a day that my fingers were cold. In fact, some days when it wasn't cold enough outside, my palms were actually sweaty, and my hands were actually warm inside these, like a little too warm. They fit great. They did not shrink at all. They would get wet. I would dry them out. You can see the wear. And again, this is all from, when you work with firewood, this is what happens. So yeah, after one winter, these gloves are probably going to need to put some duct tape on the finger there, or I'm going to have to get a new pair for next season. And again, these gloves, nothing wore through on the fingers, but I'm guessing that I use these twice as much as I use those. So again, nothing shocking in the results. The pair that cost twice as much, in my opinion, performed twice as well. And the one thing that I've always done whenever I'm out like buying gloves or anything, I usually always go for the cheapest pair that I can find. Just because in my mind, I know they're going to wear out. They're only going to last a season or a winter. They're probably not going to be good for more than 1 year. But now that I think about it, it's almost like the saying is true. You get what you pay for. But I think any glove you use with firewood is not going to last. The pair that was $12, like I said, they just shrunk down after a while, after being wet and dry, and they just didn't fit as well. And so that's why I always wore that other pair. And I think these were also a little bit more comfortable. So I don't know. So there it is. There is the Back 40 Firewood winter firewood glove review, or results. $12 glove, not as good as the $24 glove. In my opinion, spending the extra money, well worth it, especially if you're doing a lot of firewood and you're using your gloves to do firewood every day. Like I said, as much firewood as I did this winter, I was impressed with how these gloves held up. Even though they are showing the signs of the wear and tear right now. Luckily, well, hopefully, winter is over and spring is here. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, have fun, and be cool.